Okay then. Alright, you little demons, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, back again with another episode of the awesomely named and awfully hosted Choose Your Own Adventure, the weekly medieval themed format where I, the Crown Jules of WhatCulture.com, take a list chosen by you, yes, you the person who is going to be building some mega knobs very soon because of the fact, like I said, I'm recording a batch of these before I go off for my hernia operation. At this point in time, I should be coming back next week, week after. I may not even miss a week at all, I'm just that bloody good. Yes, you get to decide what list I dole out to you each and every week. And this week we have none other to thank than Justin Wern for their suggestion of 8 iconic video games that had terrible mechanics. Because sometimes you will get a game that is so utterly brilliant that you think that it must be perfection personified, only to then come across like a mini game or a quest or even a boss or just something that pulls you right out of the experience. And that's what we're here to talk about today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 amazing games with terrible mechanics. And you know the drill by now. Put your suggestions for next week's episode down in the comment section below. Let's crack on with this list with number 8, Kate Sith's box throwing. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Near universally accepted to be the low point of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's mostly brilliant critical path, the Kate Sith box-throwing minigame is 8 pounds of hot garbage stuffed into a dirty nappy. For you see, in the game's 11th chapter, you take control of Kate Sith and have to go around a Shinra mansion, and the game says to you, hey, you know what, spice things up right now. If we had to throw boxes, just boxes solve everything. Boxes distract people, boxes attack people, boxes move switches to solve puzzles, boxes are the solution to all of the world's problems, except for one problem that it introduces with this mechanic, and that's that the controls are awful. They are wonky, they are unresponsive, they are fiddly, and you are molasses slow while carrying them. It's absolutely frustrating to get through, and worse than that, it's the most aggressively dull example of blatant filler content in the entire main game. Now, Rebirth arguably has some questionable content throughout its runtime, but this is definitely one of the worst. It's just so boring. Few players would begrudge Square Enix just patching it out entirely, honestly, because in a game that is already pretty overlong, this is one miserable late-stage horror. Number 7, Blowing. Donkey Kong Country Returns. So Donkey Kong Country Returns is a literal and figurative banger, all except for one mechanic that quite literally blows, and that is blowing. Throughout the game's levels, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong are able to blow air onto objects such as dandelions, burning tiki heads, and windmills, in turn often revealing hidden items. This involves crouching and then shaking the Wiimote on the Wii version of the game, or simply pressing Y on the 3DS port, which sounds simple enough, right? However, the problem is that this mechanic brutally breaks the flow of gameplay, ensuring that any collection-minded players are compelled to stop and blow every damn thing in sight in order to see what goodies might lie in wait. And for those of you who don't think it's that bad, let's just go through this scene right now. So you're walking along and you just think to yourself, oh no, oh god, yeah, be pretty annoying, wouldn't it? That's just trying to get to the shops. The mechanic was reportedly integrated at the request of Shigeru Miyamoto himself, and yet feels like a clunky, pace-staunching addendum that should have never made it through testing. Nintendo evidently heard fans' complaints loud and clear though, as it was nowhere to be seen in follow-up Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Number 6, Carry Weight. Bethesda RPGs. Okay, so Bethesda has been chosen specifically for this entry because a lot of their RPGs tend to do the same thing. They say to you, here is a strict carry limit that if you go even one ant over, you will slow to a crawl and you'll not be able to fast travel and all the usual bollocks. And yet, they populate all of their gaming worlds with so many things to pick up, to grab, and all the loot that comes from enemies that you hit that marker very, very quickly. Now, while some might argue that inventory management is simply another survival mechanic in a game like Fallout 4, it ultimately crosses the Rubicon of tediousness, and in the Elder Scrolls games, saddling magically inclined characters with carry weight limitations just seems, well, more than a bit silly. As such, it's little surprise that vast swathes of PC players will instantly install install a carry weight mod whenever they are playing a Bethesda game, to ensure that the arbitrary weight restrictions don't get in the way of the fun time you're actually meant to be having. And for those people out there that go like, oh, it's realism, I'm pretty sure that realistically I couldn't fit about 30 wheels of cheese up my arse. I've not entirely tried yet, but at the same time, the idea of carry weight being something that you'll champion, but carry space not being something that you'll also take on board with it, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Number 5, the gummy ship. Kingdom Hearts. Okay, my friends, let's make our case right early on this one here. I bloody love the Kingdom Hearts games. I think they're just bonkers, just silly to the gillies fun, mate. I enjoy them a lot. The combat's pretty great. The characters are just stupid and silly, and that's fun. I don't like the fact that you've got to play every single mainline game and all the spin-off games to understand what the flipping hell is going on. But still, overall, bit of a thumbs up from me. Bit of a thumbs down from me, though, are those bloody gummy ship sections. What were they thinking? Because apparently getting to explore gorgeous Disney-themed worlds and kick ass alongside Donald Duck and Goofy apparently wasn't enough of a gameplay hook, Square Enix injected some added value by forcing players to pilot their gummy ship between the various game worlds. These soul-sucking, tedious, on-rails shooting sections are basically the polar opposite of the game's exploration and combat, and that is totally uninspired, artless filler in a game that is already long enough. And yes, I am very grateful that in Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3 they toned these all the way down and made improvements along the way, but that first game, man, it's just like getting from point A to point B just felt like, oh, point C, you later, friend, I don't want to do this. And also, can we just address the fact this is a game in which magic freely exists, and you're telling me that there's no teleportation spell? I've literally seen enemies do that. I've seen my own characters do that, and you're telling me I can't just zip across to another cool place? You're going to make me travel there in a game that reminds me that we do not have another decent Star Fox game? Because that's all it does, let's be honest. That's all it does. You just go through there and you're like, oh, it's like a poor man's Star Fox. Oh, Star Fox, I miss Star Fox. Yeah, when are we getting another Star Fox? We're not talking about that, Jules, playing Kingdom Hearts. Oh, are we really? Oh, are we really? I'm off the subject again, right? Anyway, I guess that you could say that trying to seek logic in the Kingdom Hearts world is a fool's errand. Number 4, weapon durability, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Ah, yes, grab yourself a drink and get comfy because yes, it's time to break open that discourse once again. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a gosh darn masterpiece just about any way you slice it, but without question, the game's most polarizing mechanic is the inclusion of strict weapon degradation. Now, while breakable weapons aren't an inherently awful idea, the sheer brevity with which the average weapon lasts before splitting in twain quickly makes weapon management feel like busy work, which takes away from the thrill of exploration. And it wouldn't be too bad if the game gave you multiple ways to repair your items, to maintain them, to keep your pristine weapons pristine like so many other games do, but no, apparently they're just too good for that. They're just like, no, you'll find another amazing sword just down the road. But will I? Because all I've got are twigs in my backpack and all of the aforementioned wheels of cheese, and it's starting to itch up there. Number 3, tripping, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I tell you what, tripping in Brawl was like a waking nightmare for me. You ever have those like dreams, those sort of like lucid fantasies where you're like in a fight and you're kicking ass, but then all of a sudden you become aware that you're in a dream and you start like moving at the speed of just molasses and your punches have the same effect as a very, very light pillow fight? It was like that, watching your character trip over. You're just like, oh no, everything's gone wrong in this exact moment, and the bullies, they're going to steal my maths homework. Curse you bullies! Yes, Brawl introduced the small probability of a fighter tripping over while moving mid-combat, which gave the unwanted arrival of RNGesus, and was presumably intended to close the skill gap between players by adding in an element of chance. Now, this naturally spiked the collective blood pressure of the competitive Smash scene, especially as there was no option within Brawl to turn tripping off. As such, serious-minded Smash players returned to Brawl's predecessor Melee in droves. Even for casuals, though, it felt like it trivialized the thrill of beating a pal during a hard-fought battle. An outcry was deafening enough that Nintendo never returned tripping to the series in any subsequent releases. Well, yet anyway. Ugh. Number 2, rune puzzles, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. So Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice is an emotional thrill ride of a video game. It is gorgeous to look at. It sounds fantastic. It is dripping with environmental atmosphere, and it is just so heartfelt. It's almost impossible not to love it. But one reason to kick it out of bed in the morning is most definitely when it comes to the bloody puzzles of this game, because trust me, they seem to exist in spite of the rest of the game. It's like, oh, we're having too much of a fun time. Let's sort that out right quick. Now, the puzzles are a neat way to convey to players how Senua sees the world while in the throes of psychosis, but it's one that quickly becomes more tedious than enjoyable. As an attempt to wear the player's own sanity thinner than their supplied teacher's elbow patches, it definitely works. But in a game that is otherwise so beautifully hypnotic to play, these puzzles are a yawn-inducing stumbling block. Needless to say, hopefully Ninja Theory has comprehensively reworked the puzzle system for the upcoming sequel, Hellblade: Senua Saga, or there is going to be trouble. And number 1, rubber banding, Mario Kart 64. Now, it's hardly a secret that the Mario Kart franchise, and indeed many other racing games, use rubber banding as a way to keep the pack as close together as possible by giving those in last place a boost to, just make sure that you're not getting ahead too much. But the problem is, have you gone back and played Mario Kart 64 recently? Because ye gods, the rubber banding for the AI in that game is abysmal. It's so ludicrously over the top. Continually doling out helpful items to those racers stuck at the back of the pack is one thing, but Mario Kart 64 never lets the player feel confident in first place, constantly forcing them to battle for the win no matter how well they're racing. Now, this might sound great to some, but ultimately it devalues the skill of being a good racer if you could just get hosed near the finish line despite running a near perfect race. The AI racers are basically glued in position in your wing mirrors, meaning that they're constantly a threat behind you, and you know what? It's just draining to the soul to think I can never outrun them. I can never escape them. And while many complain about AI rubber banding in the franchise today, they do not know how good they've got it. Seriously, go back and play it, and maybe the shine will come off this diamond just a little bit now that I've mentioned it. And there we go, my friends. Those are 8 amazing games with rather stinky mechanics. I hope that you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below, as well as your suggestion for next week's episode. And you can go follow me over on the social medias here, and my lovely editor, Sai, or Dan, it might actually be. Can't remember who's editing this one here. Over on their social medias over here. Big love to them. But you know what, my friends? Before I go, I just want to say one thing. We spoke a lot today about terrible mechanics, but you know what? There is an amazing mechanic that is hidden deep within us all, and that is the power of positivity. I know that you can unlock this, my friend, just by being kind to yourself, because remember, above all else, you deserve love, you deserve happiness, you deserve success, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, all right? You're a massive legend. I want you to go out there and absolutely smash it today. I believe in you. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.